Greetings, Mr. Tom Harrison.
Hi, Michael. Good to see you.
It's a pleasure to sit down with you. We're here today on the cusp of the release of your new album, Unfolding in Tempo.
That's right.
Which marries the music of two greats, two of jazz's most prolific composers. What did these two composers, or do these two composers mean to you, and why pay homage to them at this moment in time?
Okay, wow. I guess that's such a big question, you know, like for any jazz musician, Duke Ellington is like the source of so much, you know, joy. I guess like growing up with that music and learning it, I mean, it was too soon to do this project, you know. I could have spent another 10, 15 years studying the music and still wouldn't have felt like I could have done it justice. But to me, I was just so inspired by the idea of just studying the guy's music and trying to find a new way of playing it, you know, that it just seemed like the right time.
Okay. The first time I saw you play live was at the helm of your own band, was when you paid tribute to the music of silky saxophone stalwart Sonny at Spice of Life.
Right.
Who you were privileged enough to work with. Did that experience ignite the embers within you, which subsequently led to your latest project?
Yeah, I mean, getting a chance to speak to Sonny was just an incredible experience, you know, and the people, working very closely with the people around him. I mean, I was ignorant of Sonny's music for a really, really long time, you know, until it was brought to my attention, this incredible sort of business mentor of mine from the US. He brought the music of Sonny to my attention, and yeah, it was kind of the first step in, you know, studying the music of someone who I really admired, and then trying to perform and interpret that music in public and put my own stamp on it, you know. So yeah, it was kind of like a first step towards the album project now that's just about to come out. Yeah.
So this new album, Unfolding in Tempo, must be very dear to you then. When was the seed of the album born, and how did you decide on the track selection?
Yeah, well, but great question. I mean, I suppose about 3 years ago, 2013. You might know the Oscar Peterson albums, songbook albums, where he would study like the music of Jerome Kern and then play that music, or the music of Duke Ellington. He has a Duke Ellington one, and the idea of like studying that music and then putting that into an album form was just really fascinating to me. So I kind of began this journey of trying to study composers, you know, and the first guy I picked was Duke Ellington, and that's still happening. I haven't moved on.
So I was going to say that, how much research did you do regarding the back catalogues of Strayhorn and Ellington?
I did as much as I could, you know. I listened to, I can't remember how many discs. There was a Centennial collection which was like 30 something discs of Duke Ellington's music, and tons of different versions, and you know, of the really famous tracks I would hear like several different versions and different recordings that I eventually got to do throughout the whole career, you know. So all of these things fed into the music, and there was just so much to choose from, you know. The tracks on the CD actually ended up being kind of like mostly what you'd expect to be on a Duke Ellington, you know, a project, you know, of that sort. So, you know, there's Take the A Train is on there, you know, Solitude is on there, kind of ones that he recorded a whole bunch of times, and many people have done since. But in the end, they were the ones that I was drawn to and I felt most challenged by, you know, trying to play.
Tell us about this prestigious personnel you brought together for this project.
Yeah, well, I mean, it was kind of I came up with this combination of players over a long period of time. First guy I'd like to talk about is Cleveland Watkiss. I first met him at the Derry Jazz Festival in 2013, April time 2013, and we did this amazing concert there, playing the music of a pianist, a good friend of mine over there, and we hit it off, and you know, we were keen to work together, and this was the first chance I got. You know, February we did the tour and recorded the CD and done a few gigs since. We got more this season, so yeah, it was incredible to have him, you know, an instrumental vocalist. I think of him as, you know, someone who's like, he really knows the music, you know, like more than 99% of instrumentalists, I'd say. You know, he's totally inside that music, and he's such an incredibly charismatic performer as well. You know, it's like the music we're playing is difficult, but he's making it reach more people. You know, so that's just an incredible experience, and all the people he's worked with, and it's really inspiring. You know, we got Robert Mitchell on piano. Robert is I suppose I've been working with Robert now since 2013 as well. He's just an incredible guy. He's so inspiring and just virtuoso and just really gifted guy, you know. Very humble, and he's just, an incredible pianist. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. David Lyttle on the drums, good friend of mine. Go back with David to about 2009. We've been working together since then. Mobo nominee, and I just got off a tour with David as well. He's kind of got gigs throughout this season with his trio. He's just a really exciting drummer to work with, kind of a percussionist, and very musical guy to play with. And then Daniel Casmir, who just picked up the Young Musician of the Year award, Worshipful Company Musicians, I saw while I was on the road. Really creative bassist, lovely guy, and great person to be around on stage and off.
And your good self.
Oh, yeah. I'm in there too, yeah.
Okay. You've talked in the past about how music colleges don't focus much on the rhythmic aspects of jazz. Please expand.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, everybody has their own interest in music, and to me, like, you know, trying to study more rhythmic aspects of jazz music has been really interesting to me. And I guess there's quite a lot of focus in music college on learning about, you know, playing your instrument really well and harmonic vocabulary. And sure, there's plenty of guys who are really doing a great job of educating about rhythm, and that's happening in music college too. But I think the focus tends to be more on other areas. And to me, that's what makes jazz really exciting. It's soulful music, it's dancing music, and I guess that's going to be important to me, whatever kind of music I'm playing, you know. And since leaving the music college, I've really got a lot more into studying that aspect of the music and working with musicians who are into that, you know, who are studying that part of it.
Would you say this album was a labour of love and something you wanted to get out of your system, or do you intend to delve deeper into the Strayhorn and Ellington extensive back catalogue?
Yeah, I mean, that was the great thing about recording this CD. So we've got these gigs coming up this season, and there's plenty more to be played. But from the experience of doing it, I kind of like the idea of playing the music that's been played. You know, it's so challenging. There's particularly something like Take the A Train. You know, there's so many people have recorded that, and for better or worse, you know, it's challenging. It's kind of scary to try and reimagine that music and to play it. You know, so. I kind of like the idea of putting the band out there and to be judged against the recordings that have gone, you know, and they've been the work that's been done on this music, and just keep on searching for interesting tunes, you know.
Okay. The album was recorded live at two venues, i.e. the Everyman Theatre in
Cheltenham
and Pizza Express Jazz Club in Soho, London.
Right, which you were at.
I was at, indeed. Why did you decide to do that as opposed to a studio recording?
I mean, I always wanted to record a live album. You know, I can remember being 14 or 15 and hearing Art Blakey and the Jazz Messengers, 2 nights at Birdland, 2 records, with Lou Donaldson and Clifford Brown. And that was just, I loved the energy and the vibe and everything that was on that CD. So that was kind of a real thing for me to do. And it's kind of a risk, obviously, you know, particularly playing that kind of music, because you've only got one chance. There's a bunch of people there. You can't, you know, just cut it and start again. It's just what's there is there, you know. So it was kind of very exciting to be doing that. Yeah.
Did recording the live in 2 venues cause any issues when it came to mixing the album?
No, not really. I mean, there's very different sounding rooms, you know. You were at the Pizza Express I'm sure you know it well as I do anyway, and it's, you know, kind of like it's kind of a noisy environment, whereas the other place is more kind of a theatre. So it was kind of different, yeah, and the rooms were very different shapes and the sounds were really different. So in one sense it was kind of challenging to try and make them match up, but we had this incredible engineer who came and recorded the gigs for us, and then I did the mixing and mastering with Roland Clark. He's an incredibly experienced guy, you know, lovely guy, very generous, and he did a fantastic job. You know, I hardly had to do anything. You know, he'd basically sorted it out before I even got down there to do any work with him, you know.
Which tracks resonate with you most on the album, and why?
I mean, to be honest, we had a whole bunch of stuff that we couldn't put on the CD because there wasn't enough room. You know, there's only 7 tracks on the album, and I'd like there to be at least 8, but there's just not enough space because it's a live recording and it's kind of long. I mean, I really like, there was one that the Duke Ellington Orchestra did, collaborated with Cy Oliver and composed, A Miner Goes Muggin', which was just, you know, the original recording's fantastic, but I guess we kept the arrangement pretty simple, but it was really fun, and there's a whole bunch of audience interaction on there, you know, with the singing and otherwise, and the guys just played so great on that recording. So yeah, I think that one's the one for me, the one that sticks out the most, and it's kind of, I feel like it captures that joyful spirit more than any of the others, you know.
Who or what made you gravitate towards the saxophone in the first instance?
Okay, wow, that's a good question. You know what, I've got to be honest with you, I can't actually remember. And I'll tell you the story. I grew up in Sheffield in South Yorkshire, and there was this fantastic jazz society, weekly jazz society, which is still running, and it'd been running for a long time then, you know. And I played classical music, I played woodwind instruments, and I played guitar too. I liked playing the blues and Led Zeppelin, you know, that kind of thing. And I went to this jazz club. My friend said, we jammed in this band together. And he said to me, come and listen to this music. And we went down to this place in this really grimy bar, which is no longer there. And I saw this jazz gig, and I don't know who it was. I can't remember who it was, but he was playing the saxophone, you know. I mean, it's a bit hazy, that memory. But he just blew me away. You know, and I was playing the oboe at that time. I gave it up probably like within a couple of weeks and just got a saxophone. That's how it happened anyway.
Are there any other musical members of your family?
My mother's a singer. She's a fantastic singer. She sings musical theatre, and she's just written a book, actually. I'm going to give that a plug. She's written a book on the English composer Ivor Gurney, who was like a contemporary of Benjamin Britten. She's written a book about his poetry and lyrics and interpreting them through music. So yeah, she's a great singer, and my grandfather, he was an organist and a singer. So yeah.
Interesting. Aside from the aforementioned Sonny Fortune, Billy Strayhorn and Duke Ellington, who stimulates you musically, whether on saxophone or otherwise?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of guys. I suppose the biggest continuing inspiration for me is the saxophone players from Duke Ellington's band, you know, and that's been one of the good things about studying this music and learning from them on their recordings, you know, and learning about them. So Ben Webster, Johnny Hodges, Paul Gonsalves, and Joe Henderson as well. Joe Henderson actually recorded music of Billy Strayhorn CD as well with Wynton Marsalis very late in his career, which was a big influence on this project. That's a fantastic album. There's also someone I had the pleasure to work with, Terrell Stafford. He's a trumpet player, Village Vanguard Orchestra, really, really fantastic trumpet player, just part of the tradition of jazz music. And he's also recorded a Billy Strayhorn album sometime in the late 90s, I think, which was a brilliant CD. So he's been a big inspiration to me, and working with him a couple of years back was just amazing. So and other than that, I suppose just everybody I've heard or listened to or spent time checking out, you know.
What are your thoughts on British jazz music and jazz music in general at this moment in time?
I think jazz is kind of at an exciting time at the moment now. I think it's been tough for a while, but I think there's like a kind of, I don't know what you think about this, but there's like a bigger familiarity among people with jazz music, I think, than perhaps there was whenever I first started out. And I don't know what that, I think maybe that's down to, particularly in like East London, there's a ton of little places you can go and see jazz free or for a low cover charge, you know, not jazz clubs, just places that have jazz nights, you know, like Servants Jazz Quarters, Brilliant Corners, you know, places like this. And I think it's to do with just it being around more and people getting more used to it, and it's like jazz doesn't have to be something that, you know, the idea that jazz became kind of 20 years ago, you know, which I think maybe puts some people off. I don't know. I don't quite know, but I think like there's just a lot of really exciting music happening, and it's not just like jazz focus, you know, artists like Kamasi Washington and people like this, you know, who are blurring the boundaries between the music a bit more. And I think people are more open-minded about jazz music these days. So yeah, it's kind of exciting, you know. I'm feeling pretty good about where that might lead.
You've obviously been out on the road promoting the album, Unfolding in Tempo, over the past months up until now, and this live recording, and I believe you have a forthcoming live date coming up at the Vortex Jazz Club very soon. Will that be the same material and the same lineup?
Yeah, well, it's almost the same lineup, and it's going to be mostly the same material. So we're going to play some from the CD, and we're going to be putting some new old ones in there too, you know. So some more stuff from Billy Strayhorn. And I should also say we're playing the night before. We're playing at the Royal Welsh College of Music in Cardiff with the same group. So that's going to be a lot of fun to get it back out. And then throughout November we've got a series of gigs as well: London Jazz Festival, Hull Jazz Festival, playing at Turner Sims in Southampton. So yeah, some good gigs coming up.
Okay. What future projects do you have going forward for the rest of 2016/2017? No doubt you'll be linking up again with your good friend and associate, drummer David Lyttle, at some point, whom you've worked with on numerous other projects in the past. So.
Yeah, I mean, you've hit the nail on the head. I'm working with David a lot. Yeah, we've got a project planned, which I can't really reveal too much about right now, but we've got a project planned that's probably going to be happening springtime 2017, so that's going to be really exciting to tell everyone, you know, what that's going to be. And then, yeah, I'm thinking about recording another album towards the end of the year, the studio album, completely different sort of thing, more original music. I quite like the idea of moving between the two, you know, an album that studies the tradition and the history of the music, and something following that up with something more more contemporary and something that's more my own, you know, of my own compositions. So yeah, that's what 2017 is looking like.
Okay. Tom Harrison, thank you very much for your time.
Thanks, Michael.